So this should be pretty short and sweet, and at the end I'm going to talk a little bit about the Toothpick 3 platform and how mounting a HD camera affects its performance onto the platform. Anyways, let's start off by just weighing these cameras first. So let's turn the scale on, and then I have an empty canopy here, which I'm going to tare it with the canopy on, which is actually not 2 grams, it's actually more like 1.8 grams. Which is interesting that it's saying 2 grams now, but okay, fine. Let's just tear it at 2 grams. That's fine. And first, let's weigh just a regular split, or sorry, a Nano 2. And a regular Nano 2 is about 4.2 grams. Actually, a little bit more because this canopy is a little bit broken. So let's say about 4.4 grams for the Nano 2 RunCam mounted. And this is the Caddx Baby Turtle, which is 9.5 grams. And then we have the RunCam Nano Split, which is 10.8 grams. So the RunCam weighs about a gram more, and a lot of that weight is probably in the lens and the whole lens apparatus. You can see here the RunCam lens definitely does stick out a little bit further. It does have a more substantial lens on it, and that's about, I mean, they're both 20 by 20 boards. They both have a micro SD card slot. The Caddx has a second kind of plug to control various settings on it. The RunCam, I don't really know how you control its various settings, and I'm sure it has some sort of mechanism, but that doesn't really matter. The similarities between these two cameras pretty much ends at their weight and shape, and the fact that they are both split-like cameras that have a DVR, an HD DVR connected to them, and dish out some FPV video to you as well. And that's because this is now the second baby turtle that I have received from the Caddx company. Well, it hasn't come from the Caddx company. It's just come from various products in stock. And like I got one on the Twig, the Ishi Twig thing, and then I got another one, which is the one you're looking at, which was a standalone, just a bare product. And yeah, this is the second one I've gotten, and the second one that has been grossly out of focus and unfocusable. So the actual casing of the lens apparatus adapter was not mounted to the sensor properly on both of my cameras, so it is impossible to focus the lens. I'm so sorry for this company, because I just keep getting broken products made by them. I really fear for them, because I don't understand how they keep making products that have, I mean, I'm just really bad at receiving products that don't function correctly. But okay, so now let's look at the HD footage, and I'm going to compare it against the OV321, which is my preferred micro camera on my Toothpick builds, which I'll talk about at the end a little bit. And compared to that, you can see that, well, let's just compare the HD footage first. So the Caddx is not very good because the lens is completely out of focus. Aside from that, the HD footage of these two cameras is pretty similar. The HD footage from the RunCam is slightly, just ever so slightly wider field of view. However, the FPV field of view on both of them is pretty constricted, and it does make it a little bit challenging to fly. I say that with a little bit of a heavy heart because I actually like these products. I like this particular split product more than I like the original split product, or just not the original, the micro split products and the hybrid products. And I like them because I like the field of view on the HD footage more than the hybrid or the split products, because it does have a wider field of view. And that, to me, is what I prefer for my HD footage on any quad that I run. It just makes things nicer to look at and easier to work with, because one little tiny movement of your stick doesn't get exaggerated by the zoomed in look of a longer focal length and not a wide angle. So I do actually like these products more than those other products. Even though they only do 1080p 60 frames per second, I still prefer them because of the nicer field of view. Also, the light handling on these guys is surprisingly good considering how small. I mean, this is a really constricted product. They really scaled down their product, and it's performing surprisingly well. Now, the FPV field of view of both of these cameras are unfortunately a lot narrower than the HD view, and that's not, and I don't mean narrower horizontally because both of them are 4.3 output. The Caddx is a little bit wonky, it's not quite 4.3. I mean, even the vertical field of view on the RunCam is significantly constricted compared to the HD view, which is just frustrating because if you got the full field of view, it would make it a lot easier to fly on these guys. So yeah, I can't really recommend the Caddx because I haven't gotten one that functions correctly to use, but the RunCam works pretty well. I'm not thrilled about the FPV feed on it. I still personally wouldn't use it on a toothpick, but I think it might be suitable for some really tiny little Cinewhoops because it's a really low weight and it's a good enough FPV view to fly through. There's enough contrast, there's enough color, there's enough dynamic range to fly pretty well through this camera, FPV, and that was really the hang-up for me on a lot of these split cameras. Now the Tarsier, which is a kind of like a dual lens setup, that FPV view is fantastic, and that's pretty much the only one that I've tried so far of these split hybrid whatever products that have a really great FPV experience. Otherwise, none of the rest are very good to me. And the RunCam, this RunCam Nano, is the only one that I would personally even consider putting on any quad that I don't want to have a GoPro on, and that's only because of the field of view of the lens. I hope somebody from these companies is listening to that, and I hope you guys share the same sentiment with me. If you don't, definitely tell me in the comment section below.Maybe my calibration is just off on what I like and what I prefer. But okay, let's talk about the toothpick setup with these HD cameras on board. Now, I've run both of them on this thing, and this is the setup with the 1303 motors, and the all-up weight, as you see here, is 102 grams with the 450 milliamp 3S battery. It's 102 grams. And I have very fine-tuned this weight at this point. Every gram above 102 grams impacts the performance of this quad. And that's really frustrating, but it actually does, because each gram is about 1% of the whole all-up weight of the quad. So when you put the RunCam split on there, the Nano split on there, the all-up weight becomes 110.5 grams. And so that's only like an 8 gram differential. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a significant amount. It impacts performance quite significantly, and as you may have been able to tell from the DVR footage of these cameras, this quad with this lighter camera performs significantly better than with any of the HD cameras on board. And that doesn't only have to do with the weight, it has to do with where the weight falls on the quad as well. This camera weighs 0.8 grams. It weighs like one gram. It weighs 1 gram. It weighs almost nothing. It weighs something, but almost nothing. And you're swinging that camera up above the kind of center of gravity point, or the middle point of the quad. When you put the HD camera on board, that's an extra 10 grams that you're adding the board on top of these two boards, and then you're adding this whole camera and everything on top as well, which does weigh a bit more than this camera. So you're spreading out the weight distribution on the z-axis, on the vertical axis, and that hurts performance a lot. It really hurts performance a lot. And I know I'm really nitpicking here, but anybody that has reached even a moderate skill level will be able to tell the difference between, I mean, just look at the FPV footage. How often do you just look at FPV footage and you can tell a significant difference between the way a quad is flying? It's really hard to tell how well or bad a quad flies based on just FPV footage. But over here, you can absolutely tell that the lighter version is going faster, even though it has a wider field of view. It's going faster, it's soaring higher, I can float further, stick inputs are not so finicky, they're far smoother than before. It's drastically easier to fly. It's far more responsive in the throttle, and the throttle is far more accurate, which means coming out of dives and I blip the throttle, I don't get this bobble at the end of the dive, which I hate because I don't know how much throttle to give it because the throttle's not responding the way I expect it to when I start pouring it on. This little bit of weight really does make a difference, and this is just a small, light 3-inch platform, but on 5-inch or any setup, larger ones are less finicky about weight, but 5-inch and below is very finicky about weight. Adding 5% extra weight to the quad really does impact your performance. Now on a 5-inch, it's not going to make as big of a difference because it's got a larger disc area. It can take more of a payload, but as you go smaller and smaller, you just get smaller and smaller, you don't quite have the same amount of leeway. So you may also be wondering about the props on this quad. So these props are the tri-blade props that are on their way. They're coming. They are very, very nice to fly. I'm going to have a video just about the props. They don't replace the twin blades. I actually like the twin blades a lot still, but they are more responsive because they have an extra blade. Even though they weigh about 0.7, 0.6 grams. Sorry, they're almost twice the weight of the twin blades, but they're not quite. They're like 1.8 times the weight of the twin blade, but because it has a third blade, it does feel a little bit more responsive. The grip is a little bit higher. It's a really nice prop to fly, and the biggest improvement is how smooth the quad flies with the tri-blade because the balance on it is just exquisite, so you don't get any vibrations at all. Anyways, there's more coming. Just keep watching. Thanks very much. Floss your teeth. Bye.